Front and Center. Front and Center. A focus on important and significant developments affecting the lives of Filipinos, not only in the Philippines, but also those living and working around the world. Join us in Front and Center. Front and Center. Here on Radyo Pilipinas World Service.
Welcome to Front and Center, where we focus on developments in the Philippines, legislation that provides policies and directions that strives to promote a better economy for the country, issues that concern the welfare and well-being of every Filipino. All of these and more will be Front and Center. You can watch this program on our Facebook page and YouTube channel. That's Radyo Pilipinas World Service. And this program can also be heard on the following shortwave frequencies: 12.010 MHz, 15.640 MHz, and 17.820 MHz. Join us for another edition of Front and Center with your host, Jerome Toledo. And for today's episode, we're going to discuss about the Philippine Central Bank, which is the Bangko Sentral ng Pilipinas, that they announced that they have sold almost 25 tons of gold in the first quarter of 2024, and that's BSP says that's part of the strategy. So what does this mean of these gold trading, and how does this affect the economy of the Philippines in general? And we have now here via Zoom our RCBC Chief Economist Michael Ricafort. Mr. Michael Ricafort, thank you so much for joining us in our program.
Good morning, Mr. Jerome, and your viewers.
Okay, let me start this question, Mr. Ricafort. So Bangko Sentral ng Pilipinas, our central bank, announced that they've just sold some of its gold reserves. But first, what is this gold reserves, and how important is this for our economy?
Well, Mr. Jerome, gold is about 10% of our gross international reserves. It's now a total of, the GIR itself, it's around $108 billion. That's near the record high of 110 billion. And about $10 billion is gold, or nearly 10%. So, it's very important to, of course, it's part of managing the dollar, the foreign dollar and foreign currency reserves of the country, and enable to have a buffer, to have a cushion, in view of the need to pay for imports, for debt of the country. Well, if you look at the metrics, GIR is nearly 8 months worth of total imports. That's more than double compared to the international standard. The minimum standard is 3 to 4 months. So it's more than comfortable for the Philippines, for the GIR. So, and to start with, the BSP is an autonomous body. It's independent from the national government or from any other or agency or any other branch of government. So it makes its decision on its own through the monetary board. So, it's professionally run, and it's multi-awarded for many years. In fact, the BSP governors for many years and decades considered one of the best in the world. So that already speaks a lot as to its track record and its professionalism and integrity. Being of course, and its credibility also. It makes decisions based on data, based on the best interests of the country in fulfilling its mandate of price stability, financial stability, as well as to ensure sustainable economic growth over the long term, as well as effective payment systems. And those are the most important part of its mandates. And it's a business decision actually, as they I've been monitoring this, and I've been also crunching the numbers for the GIR for many years and decades, and The program sales of gold, it's well,
Mm-hmm.
given the price of gold, it's already at a new record high, two
Mm-hmm.
thousand six hundred
Right.
dollars per barrel, per ounce rather,
Uh,
2,600. So, you know, uh, 25 years ago, year 2000, it was just 200. It's more than 10 times already. So, it's just $200, a little over $200, year 2000, 2001. Now
mm-hmm.
it's 2,600. It's more than 10 times. So, of course,
In
uh,
tenfolds.
yeah,
I-
more than tenfold.
Increase
So
in
there's a need,
tenfolds. Okay.
there's a need now to make some program profit taking. Of course,
Mm-hmm.
it's prudent also to lock in some profits at some point.
Okay.
Uh,
Mike. Sorry to butt in, but I would like to ask: does central bank that has planned with this, or does the central bank with the large gold reserve, a good indicator of a good currency and a good economy?
yes, definitely. Because
Mm-hmm.
it goes to show because the bigger the reserves are, meaning the country has more than enough buffer, so to speak.
Mm-hmm.
Uh, well, because that reflects the fact that there are structural inflows of US dollars and foreign currency into the country. So at the same time, also the liabilities are
Mm-hmm.
managed well, the debts, no?
Mm-hmm.
Because there are also foreign debts that needed to be paid, as well as much as the country is a net importing country, imports must be constantly paid as well.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, so it's very important to really have have more than enough reserves, and it goes to show because we're like double the minimum international threshold or standard.
Mm-hmm.
8 months worth of imports, while the what's just required internationally is just 3 to 4 months worth. We have 8 months, so
Mm-hmm.
we have more than enough reserves,
Okay.
at
And
least to help stabilize the peso.
how big the BSP should sell its gold reserves? Because the central bank would not sell all of its gold reserves. So how big the BSP should sell its gold reserves in order uh, to do their trading?
Well, because gold, yeah, because of course, if you look at the holdings, the bulk is through foreign investments.
Mm-hmm.
Foreign investments, that's more than 90 billion out of the 100, almost 108 billion. So that's in effect, that's
Mm-hmm.
85% of the total reserves. And
Mm-hmm.
that's, of course, mostly denominated in US dollars and other major currencies, but largely in US dollars. So, therefore, if some of the gold holdings are converted, so that would also be reinvested. Yeah, the proceeds would be in US dollars as well because it's
Mm-hmm.
international trading. 2,600 more than $2,600 per ounce of gold. So when they sell, of course, the settlement would likely be in US dollars in another foreign currency, and the proceeds of which would be added to uh, the dollar holdings of the country, and most of which, of course, as I said, it's 85% of the gross international reserves. It's invested like in US Treasuries, in
Mm-hmm.
some of the relatively safest assets that earn also decent returns, like US Treasuries, US government bonds.
Mm-hmm.
The yields now is the 10-year yield is somewhere around 3.7%, and the treasury bills are more than 4%. So it's earning per year by that amount. So it's
Mm-hmm.
maximizing the gains, so to speak, when invested uh, in the safest global investments like US Treasury bonds, no?
Mm-hmm.
Given that US is has one of the highest credit ratings in the world. Of course,
Mm-hmm.
there's a need to be safe with the investments, and at the same time optimize the returns.
I see.
So
And mm-hmm.
these are one time for gold. Of course, it's a windfall. It's up by
Mm.
nearly 25% since the start of the year,
I
and as
see.
I mentioned, it's more than 10 times over
Mm-hmm.
over 25 years. So they just need to make a decision to lock in some gains,
Mm-hmm.
realize, monetize the profits, and for the country to also benefit. Of course, it's a tough call to see what would be the peak, what would be the peak, or yeah, because almost every
Mm-hmm.
day we're seeing record highs past couple of days.
I
No?
see. And you
And
mentioned
even
about reinvestments, Sir Mike. So, you mentioned that the BSP is investing their proceeds to invest in U.S. bonds. U.S. bonds. So that's BSP, or that's what BSP normally do after selling their gold reserves.
yeah, that's a composition. If you look at the GIR,
Mm-hmm.
it's 85.5%. Well, it's at least almost 86% foreign investments, no? So and gold is like just 10% of the total. So yeah, gold, because gold doesn't earn interest. But the thing is, it has really appreciated a lot. So at some point, it's time, it would be prudent also to realize some gains and to monetize some gains, because of course we don't know how, well, it's partly influenced by geopolitical risks. We have two wars, the Russia-Ukraine war since February 2002. And we have
Mm-hmm.
the Israel-Hamas war. Uh, Israel and the proxies of Iran for nearly a year already. So that's driving gold at record high prices, because gold is one of the safe havens. But yeah, it has
Mm-hmm.
appreciated a lot, and of course, it doesn't earn interest. So at some point, yeah, calculated decisions need to be made to lock in some of the gains, enable for the country to enjoy also the windfall. Yeah, but
Mm-hmm.
also, yeah, it's a business decision after all. It's
Mm-hmm.
yeah, it's even doing better than
Mm-hmm.
like the US stock markets, the S&P 500. They just gained 20%. Gold is 25% since the start of the year. Meaning we're just barely 9 months into the year. That's how a lot of money has been made already in gold, no?
Mm-hmm.
Uh, it's well, of course, US stock markets, well, there's it's a riskier asset type, no? High risk, high return. Whereas gold is always a safe haven.
Mm-hmm.
Whenever there are, well, geopolitical risks, wars, any uncertainties worldwide. So those are considered, and that has been proven in time. Maybe not just years, not just decades, but centuries. And
Mm-hmm.
whenever, that it has proven to be a store of value. That's why it's part of the GIR at
But
10%.
Sir Mike, there are new kinds of like aside from gold, there are some new kind of investments that central bank is currently testing or or venturing into. So, is it safe to say that gold is still the best is the best investment so far? Or do we have
So,
another investments that we have to look out for?
well, if you look at, if you're talking about, this is like generational wealth. It
Mm.
runs across many decades, generations, and even centuries.
Mm-hmm.
So, investments that have been proven to be reliable, that would really be, yeah, good track record, no?
Mm-hmm.
Relative to the other investments. And, well, gold is one of the best.
Mm-hmm.
Of course, we have already seen changes in the global banking and the global currency, the
Mm-hmm.
financial system. It used to be gold standard, like many years
Mm-hmm.
back, like after World War II, or even shortly thereafter.
Mm-hmm.
But now we have seen already, well, some shifts and some changes, like the US dollar now is the still one of the, uh, well, when it comes
Mm-hmm.
to, yeah, the medium of exchange worldwide, the
Mm-hmm.
main one, the main currency used, it's still the US dollar.
Mm-hmm.
And yeah, this is the gold standard that's been replaced, so to speak,
Mm-hmm.
for many decades already. So yeah, it goes to show that, of course, you're talking about, of course, in your investments,
Mm-hmm.
it's not just, well, liquidity is also a factor. Meaning to say, which is the more liquid types of investments that can be convertible into cash right away. Like that's why it's called reserves. Um,
Yeah.
you need to tap it when you need it most. To pay imports, of course,
Mm-hmm.
for that from a
Imports.
country perspective, to pay the foreign debts. It's like a
Mm-hmm.
spare tire reserves. If you need the spare tire, the reserve, you need to use it right away. So
Okay.
the same goes. The convertibility is also a factor because, yeah, in say in US dollars, in US treasuries, they may be converted right away. But I'm sure now gold is also widely traded.
Okay.
But it's still a factor because other investments like US dollar denominated bonds, like US government bonds or US treasuries, they do earn interest also. That's why it's part of diversification. It's part of being safe, being prudent, and also being circumspect on the investments. To be careful
Mm-hmm.
also because there should always be some level of actually high level of conservatism in managing these funds, making sure that these are uh, protected at all times, and the
Mm-hmm.
returns are also well at the same time to
Mm-hmm.
generate decent returns
I see.
because these are of course
Mm-hmm.
among the most conservative
Mm-hmm.
uh, well investments for the country in managing our total uh, dollar reserves and
Mm-hmm. I see.
most of which is denominated in US
Okay.
dollars. So
Mm-hmm.
that's why it's very important to have that proper risk management mindset.
Okay.
And
Talking
there will
about the risk management, Sir Mike. So, should we spend or the should the BSP spend the proceeds of gold that has been sold to pay off its debts and or to reinvest it to buy more gold?
well actually yeah, that's the reason is already monetizing the gains, no? Say from gold, and then not only in gold, but in other investments. There would be decisions for those, no? Considering if there would be lots of windfall already made, and of course, that's the main reason being, of course, the main mandate of that is for the reserves to be eventually used to pay for maturing foreign debt, especially the foreign denominated ones, no? Uh, Because, well, if you look at the country's debt profile, most of which are medium term to long term, meaning 15 years average or longer, close to 20 years, or for some debt, it's even 25, 30 years, like the ODAs, no, the multilateral debts, no, uh, from the multilateral agencies, like the likes of, well, even government to government, like the government of Japan, no? Very long term, and some of them are concessional, very low interest rates, no? Especially Japan, almost zero interest rates. Uh, and of course, most of them are long term in nature. They won't be falling due soon. It's a number of, well, at least that's the average. It's close to 20 years, like 15 to 20 years. That's the average of. So the needs would be for well to pay for these foreign debts would be down the road, many years to come. So it's also a matter of prudence to also have these sufficient reserves by the time that these debts they mature, although it's already staggered, so to speak, over the long term. So that's why it's manageable because the risk there, learning from the lessons of
Mm-hmm.
other countries in the past, when they bunch the short-term maturities and they need to pay right away. But in our case, no, it's staggered over a long period of time. So there's no uh so therefore there's no bunching up of maturity. So it's very much manageable to pay the foreign debts many years down the road. So but of course it's still important to have these reserves. Because of course we the country needs to pay its importation requirements because the country imports, well, the net imports per year is more than $50 billion.
Mm-hmm.
Uh, yeah, like last year, it's 52 billion in 2000 and 2022, it was a record high of, excuse me, 57.5 billion net
Mm-hmm.
imports. Of course, that is also offset by we have structural US dollar income or inflows like remittances. RFW remittances, that's $40 billion per year.
Mm-hmm.
We have BPO revenues that's more than $35 billion per year. Add that to that's already 75 billion. foreign tourism receipts, at least $8 to $9 billion per year.
I see.
So you do the
Mm-hmm.
math. And of course, there are still many other inflows like foreign direct investments, foreign portfolio investment. But the most predictable ones, the structural inflows, are
Mm-hmm.
those three. So 40 billion in remittances,
Mm-hmm.
there's more than 35 billion in BPO revenues, that's 75. And well, the foreign tourism receipts would reach, it's expected to even go beyond $10 billion.
I see. And we're
So
down
yeah,
to sorry.
yeah,
We're down to a couple of questions, Sir Mike. But in your forecast, you mentioned that the gold continues to appreciate. So will the value of gold further appreciates as of now? Now that you mentioned that the value of gold increases in tenfolds.
yeah, for the past 20 to 25 years, more than 10 times, no?
Mm-hmm.
And even if you look at the past cycles, I think if you monitor the price of gold, I remember in 30 years ago it was like 600, $700. Now it's $2,600. I even tracked that
Mm-hmm.
decades ago, like in the 70s, in the 80s.
Mm-hmm.
It was just $30 like that, less than $50. So, it's $2,600. Some of our reserves are, well, some of the stocks are old because the central bank is I think now here in the country, it is encouraged that the miners, they have to sell their gold to the BSP. That has been the
Mm-hmm.
policy. So BSP buys all the gold in the country, especially those mined in the country. So
Mm-hmm.
that has been accumulated for many years at way below the cost when market rates were much lower. Now market rates are much higher. It's not really a problem. It's a better scenario. The country enjoyed lots of windfall, lots of
Mm-hmm.
gains. So it's a matter of timing to decide when to cash in.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, true, it's always record high because we still have two wars in the world, no? The Russia-Ukraine war and the Israel
Mm-hmm.
Hamas war for almost a year. And of course, not only we have Hezbollah, we have
Mm-hmm.
Houthi, well, the allies of Iran. So, whenever there's risk of war, gold is always one of the safe
Mm-hmm.
havens, together with U.S. treasuries. So they tend to flock to those. That's why it's
Mm-hmm.
been benefiting. Yeah, the recent development in the Middle East. That's driving the
Mm-hmm.
price of gold higher because of that. And of course, we don't know. Of course, it's still a question mark. When would this situation, this geopolitical risk,
Mm-hmm.
would last? It's part of the uncertainty. So, but at some point, there's a need to cash in because since
Mm-hmm.
a lot has been made, especially when the cost is much lower. For many years, maybe many decades of old inventory, old investments in gold. So yeah, so it's a matter of measured and calculated decisions to cash in
Mm-hmm.
and realize the gains,
Right.
monetize for the
Right.
country to benefit from that. So yeah, it's not
Mm-hmm.
really greed mode to hold everything,
Mm-hmm.
and
Mm-hmm.
because we don't know. And we don't know. These are part of the uncertainties. Where we don't we cannot read the minds of the players of these wars of geopolitics.
Yeah,
So
that's right.
sometimes it's a reality that the world is at the mercy of those players of those wars, the major players. So yeah, that's why it's
So,
part of the
mm-hmm.
uncertainty. So
Mm-hmm.
sometimes calculated decisions,
Okay. So
of course,
that's a
well-informed
call,
decisions.
a judgment call for BSP to sell its gold reserves, after all. And not all central banks follow suit on that trend, Mr. Mike.
Yeah, because
Mm-hmm.
yeah, they have their respective goals. Maybe some of them are just accumulating now. They're late
Mm-hmm.
into the game. But the Philippines has been kind of early because gold holdings have been there for quite some time already.
Okay.
And well, because the fact that the country has its own gold mining and the reserves of the country, well, one of the biggest when it comes to mineral reserves,
I see.
where the known reserves worldwide, Philippines is number three in the world
I
for
see.
gold.
I see. And
Fourth in
Mike,
copper, fifth in nickel.
okay.
So yeah, so that reflects well on the country. It's one of its resources,
Okay, a short
gold.
question, Mike, before we end. So, how does this gold trading affects Filipinos and also the Philippine economy in general?
Yeah, of course, it's good for mining. the mining industry. Yeah, because as I mentioned, it's been known that the Philippines is what has Philippines has one of the biggest reserves of minerals in the world.
Mm-hmm.
Third, number three in the world in gold, number four in the world in copper, number five in nickel, and you know, of course, they're there in the mountains, maybe in the various mineral ores, no. And yeah, we all know it's tightly regulated because of course there's a need to manage the environment, sustainability concerns, etc. So
Mm-hmm.
yeah, it's good for that industry. Yeah, it
Mm-hmm.
would be good for the country, especially for its mining sector. No, eventually that would be a source of windfall, and it would encourage more mining. Well, it's cyclical. If you look at it for the past couple of years and decades, whenever world prices are high, it encourages more mining activities because it's lucrative, it's at least feasible, and it's profitable. Now, whenever world prices are down, I can recall that in the past, like in the 90s
Mm-hmm.
and up to early after the Asian financial crisis, when it was relatively low, some of them shuttered operations
I
because
see.
it's they're making losses
Mm-hmm.
because when they sell, the world price is very low, so they sometimes they shutter permanently or temporarily, only to reopen when market when world prices are higher and much more favorable. And now this is the one of the indeed one of the best times for the mining industry, so to speak. So that would definitely also support that industry here
Mm-hmm.
in our country, of course. But we all know that
Mm-hmm.
it's a delicate balance with the environment, the effects, of course, in the communities, etc. That's why. But of course, there are global best practices to base upon, and also risk management practices to manage all of those. No? The impact on the environment, while at the same time
Mm-hmm.
realizing the benefits, monetizing the benefits for the economy and
I
for the
see. And
localities where they are located.
okay, and we don't. Unfortunately, we don't have much time left. For this discussion, but we have lots of questions. But anyway, thank you so much, Mr. Michael Ricafort, the RCBC Chief Economist, for gracing our program.
You're most welcome, Mr. Jerome, and thank you so much to you and to your viewers. Have a great day,
Okay.
everyone.
And that was RCBC Chief Economist, Mr. Michael Ricafort. And that concludes this edition of Front and Center on Radyo Pilipinas World Service. Together with our producer Erwin Peñano and technical personnel Susan Aison. Join us again here on Front and Center. Mabuhay and love the Philippines.
You have just heard and watched Front and Center. Front and Center. Join us again for another edition here on Radyo Pilipinas World Service. Front and Center.